episode 259. And I'm Trent. Oh my gosh, you can be like the likes of none other than Roller Dog NC, Ash Williams, and many others. Even our good friend Ryan Connolly. Use the hashtag NetHeads and join in. You can talk to us, and then we can find out about maybe problems that the show is having. I'm. This is why we can't have nice things. It yes, it's a cluster muss. Yeah, instead you said go, and it was a train wreck. Okay, son of a bitch.
I can hear you both over Sir, but on YouTube now I only hear Trent.
Ryan, I'm glad you're enjoying this.
Well,
and I can hear myself over YouTube.
Okay.
And Ryan,
I'm glad you're enjoying this.
Now it's just going to keep looping over and over.
Well, there you go.
Okay,
Thanks.
just need to catch up to ourselves.
Yeah, it's just going to keep looping. Okay, it's all right, guys. It's all right. It's all right. I know what to do. One moment. Here we go.
Hit me!
Episode 259, take 4.
You've got to throw some cold water on this situation. Start talking about nerd stuff.
You know, nerd culture is mainstream now, so when you use the word nerd derogatorily, it means you're the one that's out of the zeitgeist.
System activate.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker. It's a tech podcast. But we are a ton cooler than your typical geek, giving you the info you need to achieve mega nerd status. NetHeads.
You guys rock.
And now, here's Will and Trent.
No one listens to the radio. I wasn't even listening. I was listening to podcasts. Podcasts are great. Radio's boring.
Yeah, that's right, everybody. Podcasts, aren't they just so grand, Trent?
They are grand. They are the grandest.
Yes, they are. Welcome, everyone, to another edition of NetHeads. My name is Will.
And I'm Trent.
What were you holding up to the screen there? What was that, buddy?
The dog, I buy him these femur bones, and he just eats the whole thing, the raw femurs, and from a cow, and he got one of the knuckles off of the femur off, and I have to take that away from him because it could get lodged in his throat.
Yeah, it's a little dangerous. And then do you get those at the butcher, or do you? Yeah,
Yep.
Okay, because that's the best place to get them. I know that in the times past when we've bought like half a cow.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we don't have any more cow. I've just been going to the Costco and getting frozen pounds of ground beef and that kind of thing.
Like a sucker.
Well, yeah, kind of a little bit. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it's not as cheap as buying a cow. But, you get the milk for... No, wait, that's not right. Anyway, the whole point is the last time we did it, the butcher also gave us like a series of bones and hooves, which is not disturbing at all to have and some knuckle bones or something. I don't know.
Yep. Yep.
I'm not an expert when it comes to the cow parts, Trent.
Well, you know what? There's and just because I've been elbow deep in the back end of a heifer doesn't mean that I know everything either.
Look, I can stick my head up a cow's ass.
Yeah, to get a good look at the butcher.
Or no, that's not how it works. Trent.
Okay.
That's wrong.
Well,
anyway,
tried.
hashtag NetHeads if you want to take part, or you can call us NetHeads on air via Skype like these guys. Hi, can everyone hear everybody? Hi, how are we? Hey guys, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm flustered, very flustered. But anyway, hey Trent, did you know Ryan is at Haunted Houses in a Buffy S makeup vampire, and he really misses us, and he's glad we're here. Matthew Corey, Roller Dog NC on Twitter. How are you, sir?
I'm well. How are you guys? Glad you're recovering.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was out for a concussion, yada yada yada. I don't know what's going to be included in the final podcast, so let's just go from here anyway.
Yeah.
Everything will be. I know better. Everything will be.
No,
I
doubt
hope so, too.
I doubt it actually, because actually the only reason why I don't know is because I don't know if you can trim a Facebook Live video. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can trim a Twitch video. I know you can with a YouTube video, so that one would reflect this. I'll probably just edit it, download it, destroy the others. I don't want to remember that this ever happened, actually. I think it's pretty much at the point where I'm at now. I think, anyway. Plus, the way I've got this arranged is so funny now, because I realize people are going to, when I'm talking, I'm going to be looking over to my right, which is not what I usually do, because that's technically where you are right now, Trent. Usually I've got you underneath the cameras so that I don't have to worry about that, but now I've mucked with things again. I know that comes as a shock, right?
Well, sometimes you got to get high above the mucky muck.
I think so. Anyway, hey, Ryan, thanks for calling in. Appreciate all you've done in talking to us and everything else. Is there anything else you wanted to get across before we let you go?
No, I'll be listening, and I'll tweet if anything else comes to mind.
Or if anything else goes wrong. I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you very much.
You're a good dude.
Yes, he is. Oh, you know what I could do? I
Catch
could
you guys on the.
see you, man. I could download the show in totality, and then I could edit it together and include all the bits, and then replace all the videos.
Yes.
Because that's fun, right?
Yeah. And not time consuming.
No, not at all. Not at all. And this is one of those things, too. By the way, have you done any internet research, Trent, since we started talking about this, into a program that would allow us to kind of monitor all of the different chat rooms on all the different platforms at once?
You know what? I have yet to do that yet.
Yeah, you know what? Neither have I. It's a waste of fucking time. Don't do it. Anyway, so Matt, hey, how are you, sir?
Doing great.
Great. We already covered that. Did you see, Trent, I don't know if you know this, but last night on the CBS, for the first time in many, 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 many years, CBS was once again airing Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, it's just the syndication stuff. That's great.
No, this was, it's not syndication. This is even more complex. So
what?
It's a new Star Trek show. It's Star Trek Discovery, and it is set about a decade before Star Trek the original series and a number of years after Star Trek Enterprise. And what they did is, here's their big thing. They're like, we got to get something to really get these. We need something other than Big Brother to get people on the CBS All Access.
Right.
What would that be? Okay, well, what is something most people couldn't turn away from? And they're like, well, we can get the nerds by the short curlies by putting a Star Trek on our. It's called an OTC service, or OTT service, which is off the air, Trent.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what they've done. It's Star Trek Discovery. It's this new show. It's an interesting twist as well, because we're not following the captain of the ship, the protagonist of our show. Wait. Yeah, I'm going to go with protagonist. Fuck it. I don't know which one's right.
That's right.
Well, hey, win for me. Is actually the second of command in the ship that we first come to. And interestingly enough, it's a human female that's been raised on Vulcan.
Oh.
So she's quite logical. I know that comes as a shock.
Baggage.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, a little bit. Also, her parents were killed by the Klingons, and like the Klingons are the antagonists in this new series. Big shock.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pick baddies, that's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. I think so. Even though they've, I don't look. Let's, not going to fire off a spoiler warning, but as of the three people currently involved in this communication, one of them is Matthew Corey, Roller Dog NC on Twitter, and so far to date, he's the only one of the three of us that has written anything for Star Trek. So I'm going to go out on a limb. Matt, have you seen it?
I did. I saw the first episode that they aired last night. I haven't subscribed to All Access yet, but it is coming very soon.
I tell you, it was a big kind of FU to everybody, Trent, the way they did this, because they did they said they would run the first episode on CBS, which they did, and then they'll roll out new episodes on CBS All Access every Sunday. But immediately after that first one aired, you could also watch the second one on CBS All Access, which is, you could tell that's what they wanted people to run and do, because the series pilot ends on a cliffhanger. So, they know how to get the nerd bucks, basically.
And it's fun because if you're watching it on your phone, you get to feel like you're watching it on a tricorder.
You could do that. Or an iPad, you could do that.
Yeah.
And then it's like one of those tablet things. Matt, what was your general impression of the first stuff that you saw?
I watched it twice. I watched it once live, and then I watched it again back on the DVR this morning. Watching it live, it seemed like they had shoved a lot of commercials in there,
Really?
so it kind of broke up the narrative. But they're going for, this is the start of the Klingon War storyline, so it's going to be different in tone than a lot of the explore the human condition Star Trek that we've seen in the past.
Sure. So this is less Roddenberry-esque.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, too, Trent, in another surprising yet unsurprising move, once again, somehow, even though we've now, I think, on TV had like at least 2 or 3 different Klingon looks or appearances, we now have even harsher ridges. You know what they look like? If you, actually, I don't know, what would you describe them as? Like the guys from Remus? Matt?
A little bit. I mean, they were hardcore.
Yeah, these were heavily prosthetically made up Klingons, jacked up teeth, tons of ridges all over the place, elongated
that's what
skulls.
I want. I want Worf, but who has had a rugged, hard life.
That's kind of what it is, Trent. It's kind of okay, you remember the avatar of Beth that Jerry imagines in season 2 of Rick and Morty, and how she kind of has a long head?
Yes.
That's kind of how theirs are, just not as long.
Okay.
To put it in terms you might be familiar with.
I can do that.
Yeah, there we go. And all in all, I think I don't know how anyone who only saw the first episode can really give this thing an honest review, because it was 10 pounds of Trek in a 5-pound bag, I guess you could say.
Oh,
at least for me.
A lot of that, yeah.
So a lot of fan service going on.
No, not even that. Just a lot of Jiminy Christmas. This thing it should have been called Star Trek Exposition, is what it should have been called.
But I feel like that but if you're trying to bring in a large audience, right? Maybe someone who just found Deep Space Nine, and they're like, oh, okay, I need to understand where this sits in everything else, because I'm only familiar with 1 or 2 of the series.
Possibly. Well, plus they want to give people a clear start. But, having heavy laden tech jargon and all that, it just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I didn't connect with it, I guess is the best way to put it. What about you, Matt?
You know what? I think I will like it a lot more once I've seen more of it, and I go back and I'll be like, okay, yeah, that's how they set this up. We're only seeing the first part of a greater picture.
True. That's one of the things they've done in the design of this show, Trent, is that they're definitely making it for the binge audience. So it's going to have a long narrative installment type story.
Sign me up. That's the way I want to consume my media.
Yeah, I want to lose hours of my life in one large chunk instead of spreading it out over all these weeks.
Yeah, well, and for me, it's just, I don't know. Is it something that I'm going to have to pay attention to pretty closely? Because as far as binging goes, I like my binging best when I can passively watch it, so that I can be working, doing coding or web design or anything, and have that going on the second screen.
I'm completely with you. I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I would
Is
say
it's
no. You're going to want to watch
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
There's
at
too
least
many
the first
details
time
and
through.
there's too many bits. But, the funniest thing about this for me, though, is similar to what we had with Enterprise and the movies and everything else, is that, look, visual effects, prop capabilities, and set building items and special effects, all of these things are way more advanced than they were in the original series. So,
Right.
we've got all of these more technological and cool looking things than they could have done back in the original run. It's just kind of funny when you think of it in the nerdy continuity way, because you can't have all of these same things exist in the same universe, but they look drastically. I mean, like, how does the future get less futuristic looking 10 years from now in this timeline that they're kind of establishing for us? I don't know. I'm at a loss. Anyway, Matt, was there anything else before we let you go, man? Thanks for your call. We really appreciate it.
Based on you talking about it, I went and watched The Founder on YouTube. I mean, on Netflix. It was a cool film.
This is the one about the McDonald's guy.
It's about
The McDonald's, Ray
it's-
Kroc.
Yeah, it's about Ray Kroc basically stealing McDonald's from the McDonald's brothers.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was kind of it was an interesting story, wasn't it? At least the way they presented it. I mean, it was. Look, I'll be honest. It was kind of a bland narrative in some ways, but in other ways, they made it an interesting story to see the way each step kind of led to the next. First he loves the restaurant, he loves the concept, he loves the name, he wants to franchise, he represents the franchise, and then somebody tells him, your big mistake is you're not in the restaurant business, you're in the land business. And that's where McDonald's starts buying land, leasing it to the franchisees, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway.
Well, I liked the
Go ahead.
I liked the part that where his first franchisees are the rich people that he meets at the country club, and they're not doing it right because they don't really care, and so then he finds the working salesman guys that are going to give this a shot, and they get it.
And the married couples who want a new opportunity and a new future and all that jazz. So it was. I definitely recommend it, and I'll tell you right now, if you're one of the people that is not a cable cutter and you have like Xfinity, and you have any of the premium movie channels, I think you can watch The Founder this month. So,
nice.
Something to take in. All right, Matt, thanks for your call, man. Have a great one. Really appreciate
last thing, anybody that does want to sign up for Star Trek or CBS All Access, there is a link on the NetHeads on air homepage.
Wow.
Click that and do it.
There you go. That is true.
Nice.
There's even though it may be pimping Big Brother right now, because I never update anything. You can
But
use
you do
that to
love
sign
Big
up.
Brother.
I do. And I watched it, but I don't want to talk about it here.
Okay.
All right. One love, gentlemen.
All right, sir. Thank you very much for your call.
Love.
Look at that. 2 calls off the bat, man. I don't know. Maybe weeknights are where we need to be, Trent.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. But I don't know anything anyway. So what do I know? Oh wait,
Well,
we,
I think
we just covered that. I don't know.
Okay, fair enough.
Anyway, man. Hey, how you been? Because I know I was excited to talk to you today. One, because I forgot the light's on. I didn't want the light on for this. I wanted to.
Oh yeah, what happened? Hey,
I
what
wanted to-
happened? There we go.
Things stopped working.
Hey, what happened?
Yeah, see, that's better.
There we go.
I was excited because I discovered, much to my surprise, that the Spider-Man Homecoming is coming. It's available on digital tomorrow.
It's coming home to us.
Tomorrow. So and you
Just
and you
in
can
time for homecoming, folks. So if you're going back to your alma mater,
make sure
that's a bad one.
make sure you get the movie that matters. Now, Trent, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say, and not a spider limb, but I'm going to go out on a limb.
Sure.
I'm going to say you still haven't seen the Homecoming yet.
You know what? You're right. I
There we
haven't.
go.
I haven't yet. So
I
this is prime time for me, baby.
I think we may see if there's a way I can approve one of your devices for my Voodoo account, so that way you could watch the Spider-Man.
And I think I've got some Google Play credits built up. Maybe even some Amazon stuff I could throw in at it. We'll see. We'll figure something out.
I'm just telling you, Trent. You gotta. I hate to sound like a broken record, but you got to see this movie.
No, I know, and as I've said in the past, I'd watch it just for Marissa Tomei alone.
Well, if she's into Costanza, she could be into you, my friend.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, ants, they do come in all ages and sizes. as she told us. I got to tell you how much this is the stupidest thing ever, but I will admit this. I enjoyed Spider-Man Homecoming so much that the night I came home from watching it, I purposely just kept watching the Tony Stark visiting Peter Parker scene from Civil War over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Just hoping that some of that cinematic magic I experienced would spill out again.
Yeah. And did it?
And not so much, but it was still enjoyable. All the Spider-Man stuff. I don't know why I'm so connected with this character. Maybe it's just because he's been there my whole life, and like in my adolescence, there was the Electric Company Spider-Man. Nobody knew who he was, even though we did. He was Peter Parker, but you know what? Whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always loved the Spider-Man character so much so that I painstakingly tried to sew my own black symbiote costume in the 80s. Shortly after it premiered, which was an interesting experience and probably not very flattering.
Okay, so this is a perfect time. Like, and I think this has to do with your affinity for it. So, I believe it was issue 200 when we finally saw the birth of Venom. That was the 200? No, that doesn't sound right.
300?
Yeah, 300. 300? Yes.
It's around.
Anyway,
I'll tell you, it's whatever it is. It's in a box in my garage.
Yeah, I just did a panel on this, and anyway, my brain's frazzled.
You just did like on the 5 most pivotal Spider-Man stories or something, right?
Totally, yeah, and so I think obviously you start with Secret Wars to where he first got the costume, but the debut of Venom is the height. I mean, I would even say to this day there is no time that Spider-Man was higher in pop culture than when that debuted. And the writing was great. The everything that book was just solid at the time, and it had taken over as the flagship in front of Fantastic Four and Avengers. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, actually, man. To know that. Or that you've got that affinity, and why Venom has lived on, with such fanfare, into various aspects of popular culture, right? Like you'll see people with Venom shirts who don't even know about Spider-Man.
Yeah, it's just it's a matter of almost iconography right now or something.
Mm-hmm.
Idolatry is what it is. We're all sinners, Trent. Venom was an interesting.
Sinful.
Well, Venom, aside from the movie version that we got in the third Spider-Man movie, really is an interesting character because you basically have 2 individuals that hate Peter Parker / Spider-Man, and they somehow find one another. And basically, the host, Eddie Brock, I think, my interpretation is that he basically gives in to the suit and its impulses, which help kind of make him crazier, if you will.
Correct. Yep.
Because he does those kind of things. They have this outrageous appearance, the elongated tongue. I fully believe the fact that he's bitten people's heads off as a character. So it's interesting. And the concept of the symbiote was great. The only thing that was really weird, if you think about it, in the history of Spider-Man, was the way that they revealed it, because Secret Wars was an event that was happening. So to make sure people bought into it, it was like there was one issue, and it was Spider-Man, regular costume. Next issue, everyone's back from Secret Wars.
Yep.
And he's got a new costume.
Black costume right in the very front.
No explanation. Nothing else. And then you basically had to wait almost 8 more months, because I believe it was the original Secret Wars issue number 8 where the black costume premieres.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's where we see him on the cover with the black costume. And we find out that he bought it from a vending machine.
Yes, he did. He went to a special thinking machine, put himself under the cap, and something else came out is really what happened.
Yeah. Yep.
But the interesting part of that machine too was that somehow it actually fixed Cap's broken shield too.
Correct.
Yeah. See, I got some nerd bona fides. All right.
You got it. You got it, baby.
I got something. Granted, I had bowed out long before like the Clone Saga. I think it was around the time Ben showed up. Was the time Ben Parker, which is the clone of Spider-Man, everybody, or the original Peter Parker, depending, or not, because and that's the way.
Kane.
Yeah, and that's the way the clone story kind of played out. Well, he's the
Mhm.
original. No, he's not. Oh, anyway.
Yeah.
I'd bombed out before then. I'd left, and I don't really think I came back until Brand New Day. They got
Yeah.
me decades later with that. But anyway, you know what? I'm not
Well,
here to
and
talk about Spider-Man.
no, no, uh-uh.
Other than to
But
say
it is
that it's
coming
out tomorrow.
and I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to see it. I'm looking forward. I will make a vow. I will not talk about Spider-Man anymore on this show until you've
Okay.
seen it. That'll be the time we finally address it one last time before we finally take one final whack at the dead horse. How's that sound?
Yeah. Fair enough. I'm A-okay with that.
Now, what I want to hear more about, Trent, because we just kind of hit on it, because I always enjoy talking about con season. And the interesting thing about the way cons go is it really feels like the Salt Lake Comic-Con kind of comes in at the end of con season, if you
It
will.
is. It is the wrap up of the con season. There's usually, without fail, every year it is pitted against the Baltimore Comic Con, headed by the Jeppy family of Diamond Distributing. And so those are kind of the end caps for both sides of the coasts as far as Comic Cons go. And it was another fantastic event this year. 3 days, if you're working 3 days at a con, that is it's a lot. I mean, I slept a lot yesterday.
I'm glad to hear that. Oh, I am
Yeah.
really glad to hear that, though, Trent, because, there was an article on the Google News today.
Mhm.
Can't remember what the study was, but they said that our modern culture, where we're not getting enough sleep, we're actually taking years off our lives because we're not getting quality rest. So
Yeah,
I will
yeah.
I will never blow you crap again for the Odin sleep. Never.
Oh,
Never.
sometimes you got to pay that sleep debt, baby.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. And I don't know if it was the head injury or it was catching up on that, but I know that when I was on cognitive rest,
Mhm.
I say that because I really don't know what that is other than laying around being bored out of your mind.
Yeah.
But I noticed I started falling into the cycle that it seems like I would wake up and then I'd be awake for 3 hours and then I might sleep like an hour for every 3 I was awake. And it was just a constant cycle of waking and sleeping in short iterations and then full massive nights of sleep. It was insane.
Mhm.
So yeah,
I can believe it.
you do have to pay that debt. By the way, just to loop back real quick, Ash Williams saying no love for Carnage. Not really. I never really liked the character.
Yeah, I mean, what made I think it was Venom to the nth degree. Like, okay, so what if we had a symbiote that was a serial killer? Well, that was the fun of Venom, is that you were trying to pull them apart, but when two wanted to bond together so closely, and had no remorse about what they're doing, I mean, that is fan service at its finest. And now you see Eddie Brock, who is the anti-Venom now, who's dedicated his entire being to ending all symbiotes, the whole race. So, you know.
Yeah, and plus, I don't know what kind of values we're conveying when it's like, oh look, Charles Manson got himself who are some of who was the first serial killer? Trent, do you know? Like the first one of American record
Sam,
known?
maybe?
No, I'm thinking it was somebody else. And sadly,
I mean, Jack the Ripper.
No, I mean like in America, like of note.
Yeah.
And like not like maybe John Wayne Gacy.
Mhm.
No. I don't know. And sadly, all of my knowledge in this pretty much stems from like the one scene in The Frighteners where the Busey kid was all excited because he had gotten one more than Gacy or somebody else. I don't remember who.
Dude, and The Frighteners, man. Talk about we're coming up on Halloween season, man. One of the best Halloween movies ever.
I just think it was a very enjoyable and weird movie. Who did that one?
None other than the Lord of the Rings himself.
Oh, that was
Peter
a Peter
Jackson.
Jackson joint, huh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why it was filmed like in New Zealand.
Yep.
Even though it was supposed to be like Oregon or something.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Let's see now. Oh, by the way, Ash Williams also pointing out that the Beyonder fixed Cap Shield, so it was the resonant energy from the Beyonder's quote
A
unquote
wizard
death.
did it.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyway, so like, what did you? So the interesting thing about the Salt Lake Comic-Con, I feel, is that unlike most cons, because like all major ones seem to go for 3 days, but they're traditionally Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Correct.
But the Salt Lake Comic Con, obviously in Utah, Sunday, the Lord's Day for the majority of the Mormons, right?
Yep.
So
The Mormons.
so in this case, it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So which
Correct.
day in this scenario? Traditionally, it would be like Saturday. So is Friday the truly triumphant con day for SLCC?
Saturday. I think it's Saturday. Yeah. And I think a lot of that has to do with you know, not not being able to get work off, and B, not wanting to pull your kids out of school.
I'm just wondering then maybe if for the Salt Lake Comic Con it might just be more beneficial to do Friday, Saturday instead of like.
Well, yeah, and in the past they've used Thursday as kind of a promotional day, giving out a lot of free passes. People get their beaks wet, this, that, and the other. But this year they didn't do that, and the numbers visibly were down compared to Friday and Saturday. Thursday was much more. I know as a vendor, for me at least, and I know this isn't the way it is for all of them, but as a vendor, I had troubles selling on Thursdays because people who had the multipass or who were there on Thursday usually had a multipass, so they would be back later.
Okay, well that's understandable, and plus, it's like you're not going to blow your money roll all on your first day of con. You're gonna like
Exactly.
at least that's what I would do. Like if I were trolling a vendor floor, I would look for the cool things, and if they had many of them, I would plan basically my last day shopping kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's like
Yep.
today's
Yep.
the day.
Assuming that things don't sell out. Now, if you're going for commissions and stuff, so we had Mike Zeck, longtime Captain America artist, and also Joe Rubenstein, one of the greatest inkers of all time. They were both there, and as well as J. Scott Campbell as well, the famous Mary Jane, sexy Mary Jane cover that everyone remembers and cosplayers do so very often. Their commissions were gobbled up within the first couple of hours of Thursday.
Yeah, but you know which one I really want to get, Trent? And I don't know if this lady still does the artwork there, but she gets like the really bad hotel art and then does
Yes.
paintings of comic book characters within these environments. Is she still there?
Oh, you better believe it. That's Kat Martin, and she does such a good job. Such a good job, and at least nice for us. She does kind of the craft fairs and some of the farmers markets and stuff as well. In fact, I just went to Kat Martin Artist, her Facebook page, and the cover photo right now is the Rick. It's Morty on the spaceship ride of drunk Rick from the season, telling him, "Oh yeah, you mean everything to me. You're the only one who really gets me." And all this time, blah 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 blah. And it was actually the janitor of the And anyway,
Wait, hold on. You've only seen the first one, but you know about Nub Nub?
Nub Nub's in the first one.
No, he's not.
Oh, then I've seen this. Then I've seen the first two.
No, that was the Vindicators episode, which was I think the fourth one, wasn't it? No, because they thought it was. I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point, because I know with the Comic-Con, and I think it was that same artist page, I saw the most impressive Pickle Rick costume.
Yes.
But it looked uncomfortable. It looks like this guy basically sacrificed a green beanbag chair in order to form out and fill out his costume the way he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And
and the Salt Lake Comic Con, the Facebook page itself, took a picture of him along with a Mr. Poopy Butthole that was brilliantly done. I don't know how either of them could see or breathe or not, especially the Mr. Poopy Butthole, because the head was so narrow and the proportions were so perfect.
Well, I'm telling you, I think that Pickle Rick was seeing through the mouth is my guess.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, definitely. Any standout super cool moments from the SLC Comic Con this year?
Just got to talk with Joe Rubenstein for quite a bit. Hilarious guy, and he had original artwork. And man, if you're in demand as far as like an artist, it makes so much sense to do some quick sketches, get a box full of them, and then let people that want to buy original artwork pick them up there. I was able to pick up some really impressive artwork for him for ridiculously reasonably priced what original comic art should not be. But sad, no one was selling original pages this year.
Oh man, that's a bummer.
Yeah, that's for me. That's I mean, and granted, you're gonna pay for that, but that's owning a piece of comic book history right there.
Hey, speaking of comic book history, Trent, we've kind of been going through this. And by the way, I'm sorry, I don't know why this became so comic centric. I planned on talking about like the new Mac OS that was released, as well
Just
as
released, yeah.
it was just released today. I haven't loaded it yet. And what's the big thing that people always say about Macs, Trent, when it comes to vulnerabilities and all that jazz? What do they say?
They're bulletproof.
Yeah,
You can't touch them. They are. No one can hurt a Mac.
Yeah, one basically a former NSA guy, I think, a hacker or a white hat kind of guy, basically discovered that without authentication, he can get 100% of the credentials in the keychains running an app on the new Mac OS. So I think I'll wait for the patch. That's just me. Yeah, that's not a good way to come right out of the gate, right?
And I'm not sure or not because I haven't kept up with this, but usually when they release a new OS, they stop development or support for one along the way, correct?
I don't know, man.
So does this mean that Snow Leopard is no longer being supported?
I have no idea.
Yeah, me neither. This new one is called Sierra, is that right?
No, it's High Sierra.
High Sierra. Yeah. Yeah. Coming straight out of Silicon Valley. It's High Sierra.
No, we went because it went Sierra and then High Sierra because it's just a little bit higher. Anyway, but I didn't want to talk about that. But hey, there's a little bit of tech for you guys. I've been on the periphery, kind of looking at this Secret Empire story that Marvel has been doing because it's been interesting. And much as I said at the time that the revelation was made, I said, like, well, that's good, but it is never going to stick when we get close to Infinity War, because there's no way they won't have the real Cap in play when that is out, because that would be publishing suicide.
Exactly. The same reason why they're no longer producing Fantastic Four comic books.
Yeah. And so when it comes to this Secret Empire, in case those of you that don't know, the big revelation was that Cap has all along actually been a Hydra operative. So much so that he actually, in this story, spoilers, takes over Hydra. But once again, the afterlife/wizard approach apparently is being taken in the resolution. Because what they're saying is, I don't know, maybe it was the Tesseract or something else. Some kind of energy was tapped and used to kind of form this new reality. So yeah, Cap has been a secret Hydra agent all along, but everything else played out the same way until now. And then there was the deviation. And somehow from that gave birth technically to an alternative timeline.
Yes.
And so now somehow the original Cap has been able to be willed into existence.
Right.
So it's going to be Cap versus Cap for the resolution.
Yes, exactly. And it's just so funny to me because I believe we talked about this at when first that panel first came out from Nick Spencer's Captain America, where it's just him saying "Hail Hydra," and folks, you can be as mad as you want, and we talked about this in Controversial Comic Books, this issue that you can never deviate too far from the norm. Everything has to come back to the center, because the characters are loved so much and they've already been established. You can only do crazy things like that with new characters who are still being developed.
Superior Spider-Man, we knew had a shelf life, regardless of what they said.
And how great it was. And even though Dan Slott has said he had to make a young child cry when he asked if Peter Parker was ever coming back, and he had to look at him and lie to him and say, no, he's never coming back.
Yeah, that's
they always
sad.
come back. You always have to realign yourself back to the center. That's just the way it is.
Well, and there are some aspects to some of these alternative stories that do provide more interesting things. Like, for example, one good thing that came out of the Superior Spider-Man storyline, where Dr. Octopus basically occupied the brain of Peter Parker. Suddenly now Parker isn't just a bumbling well, not bumbling, but he's not just a lab assistant. He's not just part of a think tank. Now he's got Parker Industries, you
Yeah,
know?
he's what we've always said. Like for someone this smart, how is he stumbling to get a jug of milk and still make it home in time?
Yeah, there are certain things that kind of stretch the bit of credibility, but I will say that that's one of the things that kind of brings us back to the amazing story that is told in the new Spider-Man movie, because we truly are seeing it from the perspective that of when the story was originally conceptualized for us, and that is, this is a kid with these powers trying to not only find his way but wants to do grown-up things, and
Exactly.
it's an interesting way and I got to tell you, man, I know I've said this way too many times, but I'll say it again. It is just some of the best goddamn writing for a comic book movie, if you will, that I have seen, because it had elements I just never saw coming. I never saw it.
Well, and they're benefiting, I think, being able to crib from a lot of different iterations of Spider-Man. In particular, Brian Michael Bendis's Ultimate Comics Spider-Man with the Miles Morales. There's a lot of stuff, even that having not seen it, I know has been worked into it. And I think that's what you're getting at is the exact reason why that comic book was so successful as well. Is yourself as a young person, you want to have some sort of relation to these heroes that we're putting in front of us. And what person can't think back to yourself in junior high school and thinking of how badly you wanted to help or fix things or whatever, if you were just given the chance. He gets his chance and it doesn't necessarily go as he thought it would.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's one of those things too. It's like you have all these. I think the interesting. Well, never mind. Look, you just got to see the movie, Trent. I'm sorry.
Roller Dog NC does chime in, though, using the hashtag NetHeads. It says, between the founder and Spider-Man, Michael Keaton is killing it. Yes.
He really is.
Still one of my favorite Batmans of all time. I think had he, had those movies been under a different vision, we would have seen a much different Batman. And, man, Michael Keaton he is the man. I'm sorry, Beetlejuice? Hello?
He really is a great performer, and he does kind of it seems like no matter what role he has, he just kind of puts it all on the table, It's just it's all right there. Because like with this story with Ray Kroc, I mean, it was just he was always believable as that. You never thought, "Oh, well, look at Keaton chewing up the scene" or anything like that. You believe who it is. And I got to tell you something too. It's so funny the way certain things can inform you. Lately, we got all the podcasts and we listen to the podcasts, but I'm hearing certain nuances, and I'm looking at things like a different way. Like I'm enjoying the subtlety of performance, and noting the decisions that are made by actors, right? And it's because of the rhetoric that I've heard on the podcast of Kevin Smith. Like, for example, earlier, either today or yesterday, I tweeted out the season 4 extended trailer for The Flash, right?
Yeah.
And big shock, the show named The Flash does return. He went away into the Speed Force last season finale, and big shock, he comes back, right? And one of the things they've told us is that after being up there, he comes back wiser but a bit scrambled. And there is some type of subtle choice that Grant Gustin is making, because he kind of has this softened, wizened look and demeanor just in his face. Like what the choices he's making and the way he's presenting himself, you can already tell. Like if I were to throw a white some white cloth on him, and now he's Jesus. That's he looks like he's knowledged and serene and
Sure. Very stoic.
Yeah, exactly. So you kind of appreciate some of the choices that are made, and I'll tell you, when you get into multiple viewings of Spider-Man: Homecoming, you can do that with Michael Keaton, because his character really does travel an interesting arc. But the one thing that I do like about it too is that regardless of everything you see there, he does kind of stick to his core beliefs throughout it. You'll see what I mean when you get there. Trust me.
Okay. Well, and it's man, whenever you and I'm glad you brought this up, because whenever Kevin talks about why he loves directing, and a lot of it always has to go back of he loves putting a camera on actors and then letting actors do their thing, which is make decisions, right? Watch them choose how they're going to do something. And a director's job shouldn't be telling them how to do it. You know what I mean? It should be up to them to interpret it and go through. And I think that's some of the most enjoyable television and movies are that way when you get an actor who is making interesting choices, whether that be in professional wrestling or any type of comic books, any type of storytelling. It's interesting choices that make the plot enjoyable, as opposed to just like you can read a plot in bullet points. It's the choices and how it's portrayed that actually makes it something that we want to consume and gobble up.
Well, and I think too that that's one of the things that has come about is I think we are in a more refined acting age. Um, by the way, Roller Dog and NC pointing out that being a caller on NetHeads is like being a contestant on a game show during the lightning round. Got to answer quick.
It's true.
Sorry, after all the false starts and everything else. Look, everything. Long story short, everything had to be pulled apart. Everything was put back together. Everything tested fine, and then somehow things just change. It's just like magic,
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It's just like magic, man. So that's why. And plus having two callers at once, like we're not even used to getting calls anymore. So hey, give us a break, right? Anyway, so Trent, technologically speaking, I have to be honest that there's been a new updated Apple operating system for the phones, right?
Correct. Yes.
And I have deployed it on my devices. I'm using it.
How many Apple devices do you have that employ it?
Well, you mean within the household or?
Yeah.
Every family member did it, so that's at least 3.
Okay.
My iPad is ancient, so it's not like that's getting upgraded to anything new. But it's interesting to see the changes that they do in it. But at the same time, it's like some of these things, and I hate to say this, guys, I really do. For Apple aficionados, I'm very sorry. But now that I've played on both sides of the fence, it's kind of like I'm seeing some visual representations and everything else that are choices that like Google made for their Android operating system 2 iterations ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird. How do you get to be the leader or one of the leaders when you're constantly falling back? Like one of the things that there is no 9, right? There was 8.
Right.
Then there's going to be X or 10 depending on which
10.
way you look at it.
Yeah.
Or it's a strike from Family Feud. I mean, whatever. But edge-to-edge screen, it's like, okay, well, Samsung did that. And then the other thing is like the facial recognition. It's like Android has had that. If facial recognition for unlocking your phone. And they're like touting it like it's a big thing. But it's like I've already heard it.
Yeah.
So how have you kept so quiet dealing with me all these years?
No, here's the thing. And it took me a while to realize this, but I think it was a piece from Forbes. I can't remember where I read it, but they made a very interesting point. And you don't have to be the tech, like the maybe not even just in technology, but you don't have to be the most cutting edge to be the one to be the benchmark or the leader, right? So, and I think Apple has kind of shifted paradigms a little bit, aside from now being like the leader on cutting edge technology. Now they are the ones who are making mostly cutting edge technology available to the masses. And it's the masses part that is going to keep them at the forefront of things, I believe, because my mom is using an iPhone, right? She will never use an Android. It would be something new for her to learn, and that's just not going to happen. I think there's a lot of people who are in that. And whether, regardless where they're at now, they started out as the tech leader, and now they're able to bring things to the masses in a way that makes it the industry standard. Just because Bugatti's got the fastest car out there, that doesn't make it the industry leader, right? The industry leader is the one who's making the technology available for the layman. And that's what I think. That I think there's a huge shift now within the past 2 years of Apple kind of embracing this a little bit, despite the fanfare and self gratification they give themselves in their releases, saying this is the greatest such and such that's ever been released. I think that's where it's at now, in that they are making this stuff that normally only, Android nerds and tech writers are on top of, are now getting into the hands of everyone.
And they really have made it very easy and approachable for people to just walk into a store and feel comfortable venturing into an iPhone.
Right.
And much in the same way that I think there is a certain agony that they think of if they were to think of attempting to move towards towards an Android.
Yes,
Much like you said,
absolutely.
it would stress people out. I know it was an interesting learning curve for me, but at the same time, I still get pissed off when all I want to do is use two screens on a Windows machine, and now it's just not. There's no way to manually try and add a screen. If it doesn't detect it, you got to force it to try and detect it. But it may work, it may not work. I don't know. Performance is inconsistent across the board, I feel, as well on all these devices. Like I'm telling you right now, I have a 7, which is like a generation old. But I noticed that, because I do a lot of landscape viewing, I guess you could say.
Right.
And I'm noticing that when I go back to regular portrait or whatever, that there are certain the gyroscopes aren't working right because it won't reorient as fast as it used to.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely something there. It'll be interesting to see what bugs happen, I think. But I don't know. I just think it's interesting the way they've got all these updates happening and all this, new software. But what are they really giving us when they do this? Other
Right.
than potentially slowing our devices down, which takes me to the next point, Trent. A Harvard study of Google Analytics has found consistently, I don't know if you read this, but consistently that in the immediate periods right before new iPhone announcement releases,
Mm-hmm.
there is a massive surge in a Google search for a specific term. Do you know what it is?
No, what is it?
iPhone slow.
Really?
So, and I only read the surface of it. So they're
That is
using Google
interesting.
So then the suggestion is that, or the trend is that there is something potentially being done. This is what they speculate, that potentially Apple is doing something to slow down older devices right before potential what is that?
Launches.
Yeah, right before launches and purchase periods.
Yeah.
But I personally, what I think it might actually just be mass perception. So they're saying
Totally.
we're going to put
You're
out a
hearing
new.
about this new thing coming out. You're like, God, you know what? Mine has been running kind of slow lately.
Yeah, and it wasn't. Look how fast things happen there, and they've got those extra taps. And let me tell you something about this Apple Taptic technology. By the way, it's like force pressure, so that way the more you push in on it, it's like a double click on a PC, if you will, and it can bring up other options and stuff. I'm just trying to move icons, and suddenly it's giving me options and everything else. I'm afraid to say I am just an X and a Y guy, and maybe the Z vector is just not for me, Trent.
And I can tell you right now, I could never own a phone that has that kind of technology in it because of my hyperhidrosis. These hands are so hot all the time and sweat so much that it messes with the sensors in weird ways. I'm dead serious, dude. I've had phones in the past where my hands were so hot holding it in my hand, it was picking up the heat from my hands from behind the screen.
Damn,
and affecting the manipulation that way.
I wasn't laughing in a mocking way. I was laughing because my office here at home regularly gets to around 80 degrees, right? So naturally, I have a similar condition that kicks in. And the one way that you love opening your iPhone is that you can press this finger sensor, right? The fingerprint reader.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, even just a little bit of hyperhidrosis going on, I'm clicking that and it's like, no, that's not your password. I'm like, but it is my thumbnail. I gotta clean my thumb.
How can it not be?
I gotta clean the scanner.
Uh-huh.
Kill a chicken, bow to Mecca, do whatever I can to make it work.
Yep. It's true, man. and like, if everything turns that way at one point, I'm screwed. I'll just go back to a flip phone and having a laptop with me.
Yeah, well, Trent, it's maybe you just want to downgrade to a clamshell because if it's worth saying, it's worth eye contact, Trent.
True that.
See, it sounds prolific. That's actually a line from Rick and Morty. Final point I wanted to talk about tonight,
Ah.
because we really haven't talked about it in detail. And believe it or not, Trent, this Sunday is already the season finale.
The season finale is already upon us, and I don't even know how many episodes I've watched.
Yeah, clearly you don't.
More than one, not more than all of them.
Yeah, but it has been a consistently strong season. You know, first season, I kind of have issues with Gazorpazorp, okay? Not the strongest episode, but, you know, I don't get too hung up on 2. I don't think there were many episodes there where I kind of had any points or contentions with. But season 3 has just been a rock-hard performer the entire... Boy, that came out wrong.
Yeah, it did.
It has been... But
like
you liked
Rocco.
it.
Like Rocco as he's ending his career.
It's really coming across just strong, consistent performance all the way through. Great writing. They really know what this show is. They're exploring it in ways that, you know, it's supposed to be. It's this amazing sci-fi show, but at the same time, it's also this family drama in a way. In an odd way, as a matter of fact, because it also opens up all of the. It opens up all of the kind of ways we can connect with it, because we've either been children of divorce and we know people that went through it, and it's funny because they address these real world issues in a way that shows us the way some of these characters are just horrible characters, but we root for them anyway. Anyway,
well, I mean, that's the definition of Seinfeld, right?
Yeah, pretty much, definitely so. But I have to tell you, I'm interested to know where they're going, because one of the things that's kind of consistent almost all the way through the 3 seasons have been the fact that there is some Rick variation in the title, right? The Ricks must be crazy. The Ricklantic mix-up from this season, Ricklantis mix-up is what it's called. But suddenly, I can't even remember. Oh, last week's episode was Marty's Mind Blowers. This week's was the ABCs of Beth. So we had these variations, but then suddenly also, I think the title for the season finale may be the Rick Churian Candidate. So they go back to Rick all of a sudden.
Interesting.
Yeah, especially since you haven't seen all the episodes. But it's just been an amazing season, so much so that I think the caliber may be enough to where I could just keep watching these episodes to get me through whatever time period will be between them, you know?
Yeah. And who knows? Maybe in 2018 we'll get a season of the Venture Brothers to tide us over there as well.
Maybe. Don't know anymore. I have to tell you though, it's interesting. I think there was some buzz over the weekend that different articles about the same topic, which is basically like the diehard fans of Rick and Morty don't deserve Rick and Morty, because apparently there are, believe it or not, in the world today there are these extremists, Trent.
What?
But I can't believe it's in relation to Rick and Morty. But it's true. Like when the show came under pressure, or the show had hired a female writer, like, believe it or not, people were shitty about that. And they're shitty about other things too. Like to the point that Dan Harmon is straight up pissed at the audience of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad to hear. Can't you guys just passively enjoy the shit the way I do? I mean, do you have to go to these damn extremes?
Dude, it's the same reason that wrestling fans and comic book fans are the worst. It's because we all feel like we can do it better. We all feel like we figured it out. And honestly, I know I've said this many times. Find the DVD with the commentary of the first season. Go back and listen and watch it with the commentary, and you will realize so much of this shit has just been pulled out of someone's butthole. That it's just shocking that they've been able to make any type of continuity out of it all.
I don't even know if I would put it that way so much, as I might be inclined to say that it's so much of this stuff has just been smoked into existence.
Yeah,
if you will.
Exactly. Yes, and that is addressed in the commentary.
Right. Exactly. You know, as well as it should be. That's where it needs to be. Oh, and by the way, I did finally figure out a way to at least look at the people on Facebook and see what they're going. Oh, by the way, Tim Fleming, thank you very much for pointing out this is your favorite monthly podcast. And
Thanks, Tim.
and James, thank you very much for telling us we're amazing. I don't think so, but we're trying to get it's a matter of getting back into a vibe, but also I got to tell you, and Trent, we can bond over this.
Mhm.
I have said many times I've made mea culpas on the show about things I've done, which really should inform me as to what kind of person I really am.
Aw.
Um,
Aw.
and I don't mean that in a good way. But there was the whole incident where I think is the either the tail end of your truck or the part of your truck came down on you hard.
Yeah, the tailgate on my Jeep came down in fact, I just saw a picture of that the other day.
Yeah, and the thing was, Trent, he got a concussion from that, right? And
Well, yeah. Uh-huh.
you were concussed, my friend.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then earlier this year, I had a similar thing happen with my Prius before it died, and then there was this, and I tell you, it is kind of disconcerting. Not just having a concussion, obviously that sucks, the headaches and everything else, but the hardest part is when you realize, my God, I'm just dumber than I normally am as a person. I've been looking at this thing for 5 hours trying to make it go. And why is it taking me so long to get through this kind of thing? And I hate to admit it, I still think I have some effects of that today.
Which, oh my gosh, dude, if you
Excuse
I mean, so I don't know if you're familiar with and I'm gonna screw up her last name, so I apologize. Jane McGonigal. She has been on a couple of featured TED talks, so you can go watch her there. She created this program called Super Better, and she created it while recovering from a concussion. And the best the best discussion about it, about how she came up with it, and the effects that concussions can have on people. She did an episode. It's episode 694 of the Joe Rogan Experience, and she really explains and goes into some deep science about what it does to your brain and how it can take years to recover from just a single concussion. Listening to that podcast had me crawling up inside my own beehole, thinking of all the stupid shit that takes place in high school football, myself included. That just, it's mind blowing that we're affecting, on purpose, people like that at such a young age, especially when your brain is still developing. Check it out though. I think you'll be nodding your head like, oh my God, yeah, that's totally me.
I probably will, because I like my favorite.
It's really good.
My I don't want to say my favorite thing that happens during this, but one thing I notice is that when you'd have a bad day, it's like suddenly you would just go from at least being half normal to extremely grumpy and just tired. It's like,
Yep.
basically it's like when a toddler gives up on
Yep.
something and they're about to have a meltdown. That's kind of it was kind of the adult version of that. You don't really get a meltdown, you just get really annoyed and frustrated, and then you want to go to sleep.
Yeah, that's exactly what happens, and it affects people differently. And yeah. Anyways, listen to it, and anyone out there listening, like, regardless of your thoughts on Joe Rogan, pro or against or whatever, Jane McGonigal is amazing. She's a video game developer, and her experience is really interesting, and it'll give you so much empathy for anyone who has had a concussion before. And it helped me even to understand my own concussions, plural, and how it's probably affected me.
Yeah, it's and by the way, folks, if you ever do suspect that you may have a concussion, if you have had any type of head injury where you rung your bell but you just kind of shrugged it off, I really highly encourage you, anytime you have any type of a head injury, please get yourself checked out immediately. Yep. Okay? Don't mess around with it, because there were a lot of things that I did wrong that thankfully weren't there. But like, I was taking Advil, which, even though it's an anti-inflammatory, it can actually help. I don't want to say help, but it can increase the likelihood or condition and occurrence of like a brain bleed, if you've ever heard of
Mhm.
that. So
Yeah.
it just don't mess around with your head is the whole point, and make sure you get it checked out. Hopefully you have health insurance. Let's not get into that discussion.
Right.
Although apparently the good lady either from Alaska or one of the other, Senator Collins, apparently is voting against it, Trent. So it looks like
There you
once
go.
again the attempt to repeal and replace the ACA is going to not happen.
Okay.
So there we go. Anyway, folks, I've talked way too much, and apparently I've got a dry tickle, so it's time to go. Even no matter how much I drink, I wanna cough, Trent.
Yeah, it's still there.
It won't go away. I'm literally choking
Yeah.
on it right now. So anyway, folks, thank you
Yeah.
very much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Anything you wanted to plug or talk about before we go?
Deathray.media. Check it out. Got some new comic book origin stories from creators coming up, and we'll be releasing them soon, along with all the other stuff on the program.
You know, and also if you're one of the people that does happen to listen in the Logan, Utah area, but you've never been down to the Beehive Grill for Trent's Trivia Night, I got to tell you, folks, I've heard remote reports. It's the place to be. So be sure to check that out almost every Wednesday night at the Beehive Grill, right, Trent?
That's right. Yeah, it's going strong since 2012.
My goodness, sir, it is amazing what it's amazing the motivation you can have for a hot plate of food.
It's so true.
Yeah, well, you know what though? It's like you tell me it's free food or all you can eat, and you'll be amazed at what I'm capable of doing, even with a concussion.
So true.
Anyway, folks, thanks for joining us live or listening after the fact. We always appreciate it. Give us the review on the iTunes or wherever it is you listen to us. Send an email to your congressman and tell him how much you like NetHeads. Just help spread
that'll
the
help.
word. Yeah, help spread the word if you can. Also, at any time, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm Nethead WW. Trent is a part of him. The show is NetHeads on Air. Until next time, my name is Will.
And I'm Trent.
And we will be back
soon.
Nope.
Ended like it started.
This is NetHeads with Will Wilkins and Trent Hunsaker. Signing off. I know, right? But stop being a little Nancy and deal with it. NetHeads. We'll be back soon.
Goodbye.
This has been a production of Smodco Internet Radio. Sir, only at smodcast.com.
You know, Trent, the other thing that I never realized about these pickup shows during the week is that I think there's a certain point, 10 minutes into this show, when nothing's been going right, so it's all started really late.
Sure.
There's a certain point where I actually hit like a lock. I can't do anything anymore because all I'm thinking about is I got to go to bed. Trent's eventually got to go to bed. I've got children in the house that have got to go to bed. Why are we still doing this? What's going on? And that whole banter is just looping in my head like a destructive tornado. Just a whirling dervish of confusion and pain.
Whirling dervish, good call.
So I have to ask you: do you is there as this went on and on? Is there any certain point where you're like, I don't mind doing NetHeads, but I do have work in the morning?
Will, as long as we get to, talk about our rock hard performances and the rock hard performers in our life, I think that's all that really matters.